Back here on the Newsfeed PM, thanks for staying on. Electricity Minister Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa says power utility Eskom is now focusing on ending load shedding and ensuring a consistent supply of energy. To increase energy availability, government is investing in new transmission infrastructure. Well, we're joined now by the Sanedi Head of Energy, Professor Sampson Mamphweli. Prof, good to have you, and thank you very much for your time. How long have we known that, of course, at some point, this fight against load shedding is going to require an extension of the transmission grid for optimal supply of electricity?
Good afternoon to you and the viewers. So we've known this for quite a long time. You recall that at some point, Minister Mantashe couldn't announce some projects around above 3,000 megawatts. Because those projects, even though they qualified in terms of the public procurement process, they could not be allocated because of the grid constraints. We have a backlog of about 14,000 kilometers of grid lines that needs to be constructed. Now, Eskom has got what we call the transmission, the TDP, Transmission Development Plan. That is basically planning how the grid should be expanded across the country. Up to this stage, most of the work has not yet been done. So the ministerial determinations that Minister Ramokgopa issued in concurrence with NERSA is phase one of increasing that grid capacity.
Total length of that phase one, approximately 1,164 kilometers. Far off from the 14,000 kilometer that you're talking about that is in the backlog. But the location of these seemingly in the Northern Cape, Northwest, as well as in Gauteng, would that bring the relief that is sought?
Yes, so the idea here you will see is to enable the connection of mainly the solar energy capacity that we have in the Northern Cape. Most of the grid constraints that we have is in the Northern Cape, Eastern Cape, and the Western Cape, where we've got the most resource. But if you look at this determination, it wants to basically connect the projects in the Northern Cape and then come down to Northwest and then Gauteng, which is where you have the large industries that are the large power users. So it's done in line with mainly the power flow in the grid and across the country. And this is basically phase one that will basically test the model, the new model that Minister Ramokgopa came up with of involving the private sector in the building and operation of the grid. The grid comes with power lines, step-up transformers and step-down transformers, and a number of other infrastructures like your substations and things like that. This has not been done before in the country. So this will assist in terms of first determining the cost of this particular model, because it has not yet been tested in the market. But ultimately, at the end, Minister Ramokgopa wants to unlock grid capacity that will enable about 7 gigawatts of renewable energy to be connected to the grid. And as I indicated, this is phase one. I'm sure he will elaborate more on Tuesday when he does the media briefing on the next phases from this particular one.
Well, you saying that this has never been done before, is this likely going to attract the kind of procurement scandal or controversy, for example, the likes of the Powership matter, or even the nuclear build itself? I mean, in terms of the processes that need to be followed here, what would be the most cost-effective way of tendering?
So this one is not going to have controversies because it has followed the proper procedures. One, it is in line with the integrated resource plan that determines the new generation capacity alongside the transmission lines and things like that. And then it is also aligned to the transmission development plan, which is an Eskom plan on the grid expansion program for South Africa. Then the way the minister has done it, he has followed the path that is followed when we do public procurement in the Renewable Energy Independent Power Producers Program, where he first secured a concurrence with the National Energy Regulator, and then the procurement process will be followed is similar to that of the Renewable Energy Independent Power Producers Program, with government dealing with the procurement part of things, and the transmission system operator, the new Eskom company that deals with transmission, will be the single buyer of the equipment that will be coming with this particular program. So the other programs, the challenge was the processes. For instance, if you had to give an example of the nuclear new build in the past, it was the process that was followed, which was not a public procurement process. And according to the PFMA, the Public Finance Management Act, we need to follow a public procurement process that is informed by what I've alluded to, the Integrated Resource Plan, ministerial determination, concurrence with NERSA, and government being the procurer, and Eskom being the single buyer.
So it's the first time, would you say, that the National Transmission Company of South Africa is going to be conducting such a project? I mean, previously when they spoke about splitting Eskom into transmission, distribution, and retail, and so on and so forth, many were critical of that process, saying, oh, well, you know, it's just another state-owned company that you're trying to create when we already have so many of them. What is going to be different about this?
Yeah, so the idea now is that the National Transmission Company of South Africa is the one that is now dealing with procurement of new generation capacity alongside the infrastructure required to transmit and distribute the electricity that's coming from both the independent power producers and Eskom as well. They have now developed a market that will include also the market code, that will also include the various processes that will be followed on the new generation capacity procurement as well. They've got a very well laid down procedure or market that will be looking at new generation capacity for security of energy supply. It will look at how the existing capacity is allocated in terms of the market. There's a market that will have to give us what we call base load, and then there's the market that will have to give us additional capacity from independent power producers. And then there's a market that will have to give us what we call ancillary services, which is basically what we call grid stability. So in other words, when something happens, when a trip happens at a power station, and we lose the inertia, we lose the voltage can drop and the frequencies can be affected. Now, in terms of the new power market, when something like that happens, Eskom will be able, the transmission system operator will be able to call on additional generation capacity just to deal with the grid stability, to ensure that the grid is not negatively affected, and then we could go to higher stages of load shedding, like it happened when there was a problem at Majuba Power Station that affected Kusile Power Station and the other power station. Under a new, and then we got into stage 6 load shedding at that particular point in time. Now, under the new market that has been proposed, that will not happen if the market operates in the manner that it has been proposed out there.
Yeah. You know, South Africans, I mean, the most important question for South Africans is, can it be done? But they'll be looking very closely at the money trail. Who will benefit? Are politicians going to get a benefit out of this? That's one question they will ask. Two, the other question they will ask is whether or not this will take a long time for it to happen. Will it happen soon enough to be able to end load shedding? But what are the possibilities of scope creep as well, where there is a particular amount of money that has been set aside for this, and we end up, like with the building of those power stations, costing Eskom hundreds of billions?
Yeah, so the new ways in which Minister Ramokgopa is doing things will avoid all those things that you've mentioned. The first one, let me start with the last part, where you have cost overruns and things like that that happened at Medupi and Kusile. This is not going to happen in this particular case because what will happen is that there will be an allocation of the grid capacity to the private sector for them to build based on the price, on the least cost kind of a situation. So the private sector company that will respond, giving the best value for money, will then be appointed to build the grid and operate it for a particular period of time. And then after that time, they will have to transfer it back to the nation through Eskom. Now, because the private sector will be involved and they will have a price that they will charge government, the entire construction will be a private sector construction. So it won't take too much time for them to be able to build the systems and also for them to start operating the systems. Now, following the public procurement process, if it's followed in a manner that it has been designed, I don't see how politicians or any other person outside of the process can benefit from this procurement process because I foresee a situation where various companies will have to follow the public procurement process, respond to the call for proposals by government, and then they will have to be adjudicated in line with the Renewable Energy Independent Power Producers Program, which we have run for many, many years successfully without a lot of challenges, save for the car power ships stories that we had that had a lot of environmental issues and all other issues that we know about the car power ships kind of the story. So this time I'm very much confident that following a process, yes, it's the first time that it will be done on the grid transmission side of things, but it has been done on the new generation capacity side of things since 2011, and it has worked very, very well so far. Now, in terms of who will benefit, it's going to be South Africans who will benefit because this will safeguard new generation capacity coming into the power system. It will also assist in terms of avoiding load shedding going forward. And if we can avoid load shedding, we will be able to grow the economy. And once you grow the economy, then that comes with a lot of job opportunities. So South Africans stand to benefit from this entire process.
Prof, appreciate your time. Let's leave it there. Thanks for coming on. Professor Sampson Mamphweli there on the latest, of course, announcement that the government is now going ahead with the procuring of some 1,100 kilometers of the transmission grid. The minister having signed that.